So we're going to hear from Giovanna. Giovanna Vitelli is one of our Leading the Sector cohort. Giovanna's Head of Collections and Curatorial at the Hunterian Museum, University of Glasgow. So let's go to Giovanna first. Fantastic. And then afterwards we'll hear from Chris. Great. Off you go, Giovanna.
Is that clear?
Perfect.
Right. I'm really grateful to Leading the Sector and Culture 24 for giving me this opportunity, because the reflections I've had over the year have been phenomenal. And I've been really lucky to work with people who are just, you know, at the cutting edge of the business, and with an amazing cohort of peers on this group. And as a result, I feel that I've got, I have a lot to share, but I'm going to try to keep it fairly limited. So let's see if I can, I've got a new software that stops me from changing. There we go. I joined the Hunterian just before lockdown. So a lot of the work that I've been doing has been solo, connecting obviously digitally with my peers. And the good thing about the Leading the Sector program, the way it started and the way things were going, was that they forced me, they actually pushed me to develop a baseline, to do a mapping exercise back at the organization. Obviously I had to do it remotely, about our capabilities, about understanding. I was new to Scotland, I was new to the country, so understanding the rest of the Scottish sector and how it fit into the UK and compared to the English one, and the heritage sector in Scotland generally. And on top of that, we were also full on with developing a 5-year strategic plan at leadership level, so that in real time, I had to learn and feed in digital knowledge, such as it was, to our very small leadership team, and see if we could make sure that that was a really embedded strand of our thinking. Most importantly, I think the benefit of being able to knock ideas around was that I could begin to distinguish between the emergency thinking, the sort of pandemic driven thinking that we were doing about digital, as we all did, you know, uploading content to maintain identity and presence, and separating that out from the kind of considered longer term decisions that we had to make about where and how and when to invest in digital. So what I'm sort of broken this up into soft and hard, but on the hard side, on the left there, an opportunity came up for us to hire a new head of audience engagement and experience. And I was able to go out into the market and, with the backing, if you want, of the program, and start informal conversations about what constituted best practice, what the language should have looked like for the job description, what kind of person we should look for. And as a result, we've ended up with a phenomenal post holder who's just already making huge inroads into how we work and incorporate our digital thinking into both leadership and just organizational activities. And through the DASH survey, which had just closed when I sort of clocked on it was happening, I modified it and used it internally to get a baseline. But unexpectedly, out of that came the most wonderful sense of consciousness raising across the organization about digital capacity. And as a result, individuals were able to start talking about digital in a way that meant that I could share the resources I was getting from Leading the Sector and Culture 24, and they were sharing in turn their networks, their resources, the things that they were picking up. And the aggregate of that was that we were able to start talking about digital much more coherently and with greater depth as we were doing our strategic planning. On the personal side, digital literacy, well, that was new to me and I hadn't heard it, and STEM people don't talk about it. So for me, a personal interpretation of that is the ability to understand how to detect patterns, how to understand how to motivate people, how to link people across digital activities, and also just to bring in as much as possible formally and informally from the bigger world of digital into the conversations that are happening. So not to be a techie, but to understand at a different level of work how all these different activities that come under the digital umbrella work together. And quite honestly, the year was about building confidence in a way that I hadn't expected, having walked into it not understanding a great deal, even though, you know, we all are relatively digitally competent these days, but the literacy at leadership level was something I hadn't expected to develop in quite the way I did. If I take a snapshot of this and I look at my organization, I could say that the digital is normalized in the sense it's still building, but it's there, and it's something that is talked about openly. It's not siloed anymore. It's not balkanized. We're able to nurture and develop individual talent in a way that we weren't able to before. And it's recognized, and it's a factor in our corporate well-being. And leadership itself has gone from being fairly aloof and disengaged from the group that does digital to actually becoming involved and embracing it to the point where we actually can talk in a very informed and intelligent, well, relatively informed and intelligent way, quite critically about what constitutes good digital, whether we need it, where we need it, and how it actually applies to our work as a university museum. We all have paymasters. Ours as a university involves us developing advocacy and comms packages to show that we can offer a much richer strand to their activity by acting as a bridge between the university and its audiences. So as a result, what we've done is understand that digital sort of is a marker for change across the sector anyway, at a slower or faster pace. And it has been enormously helpful in making sure that we don't accept standing still as a status quo, as a way of working. So that's it, really. I had a great year, and I'm very grateful to all the people who fed into our work. And I hope that I gave something back to my peers on the course as well.
Well, you certainly did, Giovanna. Thank you so much. So much we can unpick in there. We're going to move straight on to Christine Luxton at the moment, who's CEO of Suffolk Wildlife Trust. But just a reminder, any questions for Josie, Giovanna, and the following speakers, you put those in the Q&A, or any observations in the chat. Right, Chris, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. I'm just going to share my screen and we'll kick off. Is that coming through for you?
Yes,
perfect. Great, good. Hello, everyone. I thought I would just start by giving you a bit of a sense of place with Suffolk Wildlife Trust. These are the English counties, and this is us in red, right on the east coast, in fact, the easternmost point of Suffolk. And it's really important to give you that sense of place because that really did influence everything we tried to do in our project, in that we are a county-based charity, county-based nature conservation charity. We're also a very rural county. Well over 80% of the county is in an agricultural production. We have no cities, we have no motorways, and in part we have very rural broadbands. And for us as an organisation, those are all challenges that we've had to deal with over the development of the way that we work. So when you zoom in on us and really think about us as an organisation, I'm just going to make this smaller. The way we work is we have 50-odd nature reserves around the county with staff based at some of the biggest ones. And those bigger ones are shown here in blue, where we've got office spaces. So we've got all the challenges of being a very rural county and the infrastructure that goes with that. But actually what we really wanted to do was to bring us together as an organisation and have a bit more coherence to the way we worked. And that was a focus for our digital. I think to be fair, we had already recognised that this was something we wanted to do. I came in as a CEO, having worked for the charity previously. I came in August as CEO, so this journey was ideal for me. So we'd recognise that we really needed to move from a web-based server and really embrace a much more web-based SharePoint Microsoft Teams package that we had. We'd already got that investment, but what was slipping was the getting started, and what we really needed was the real push to do it now. And of course, that's what COVID gave us. We think about making that leap and across the whole organisation, nudging people to work in different ways. It was very easy to just find ourselves always finding reasons not to, but COVID gave us the now. And this is really the journey that we as an organisation have been on when we start thinking about the different steps. Was the when seemed to be the critical holding back for us, and actually COVID just said it's got to be now. And then we started thinking about the why, and I think Giovanna sort of focused on this a little bit. Really, it's very easy to get hung up on the tech and the tech side of things. What the course has really shown me in terms of digital leadership is to focus on the why, the difference that it will make to the organisation and the difference it will make to staff, so that we will then embrace this digital change. And when I started looking at this, what really became clear is if we found some common ground that would suit everyone, that gave us then the reason for everyone to embrace this change. And for us, what became clear as a conservation charity, we're working with chainsaws, tractors, health and safety was a common thing for everyone, as was safeguarding with the work we were doing with children and young people and vulnerable adults, and also HR practices. So we used those as the focus for really beginning to think about making the shift and working in different ways. And then for me, as we went through that, I realised that really any of the things that you as leaders would flag on your risk register are the reasons why digital is so important. And I really began to realise that looking to your risk register and linking that to digital gives you the assurance around your systems and processes. So not only does that give you the why, it gives you the when. If there's a bit of a lag to getting going, but that is surely a reason to really push forward. So having then really thought about the why and the difference that for us a digital shift would make, we really realised that if we embraced a shift to a Teams and SharePoint based common way of working, really then that was going to fix a lot of the internal issues that we might have around internal comms, being a disparate organisation working across many locations. But again, the course came in again then with really thinking about how do we make this happen and really giving the focus on our people. So not about the tech, but on our people and on the investment in digital skills. And the critical change that the course gave for us was, instead of us going out at this point, because we secured a grant from the Heritage Fund for a staff post to help drive this, instead of going out to appoint for an IT manager, we went out for an IT and digital skills manager, and we got a completely different set of people applying for that. And what that has done has meant then we have got the capacity in-house to help drive that through. And as a leader, discovering that savings that we have made over the course of the project through things like changes in our phone systems, some of the broadband, actually we now have, through those savings, can continue that post. And we have got the resilience long term to keep this going. So we've got the why, the when, the how. I think the other thing that I would really canvass as a leader is recognising if you're trying to take your staff with you in this, is don't underestimate the time. So if we look that you need to take this forward, if you look at Ratty there with his plant, you need to nurture your staff through this. Each step and the training takes longer, but actually you get there and you get there stronger in the end. So where are we now? I think we're very much still on our digital journey, but the staff are excited by it, invested in it, and we've got digital leaders within the staff who've been the ones who've leapt first. And I think my challenge now, going back to the time, is actually then managing pace. People are really keen to keep moving forward with this. They've got ideas of where we could go next. But as we come back to our offices after COVID, what we've got now with this system is one where everyone can work in a much more hybrid way of working. We can work in our offices, we can work at home, and equally, because it's totally mobile, we can be working in our tractor cabs. And of course, for us as an environmental organisation, it's really helping us to think about our lower carbon future and how that will help us then in the delivery of our strategic objectives.
Chris, thank you so much. Again, you've covered so much ground there, so much that we can unpick in the discussion, and lots of common threads with Giovanna as well.